Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome you all to the third session of our webinar series, Dialogues for Design, Innovations in Transforming Philippine Higher Education. We've spent the last few sessions, to be exact, this is our third session, looking at the big picture, that's global trends and breaking down the walls of the traditional university. But today, we're getting right into the heart of where the magic happens, and that is, of course, the classroom. We're exploring a concept that's actually quite ancient, yet it feels radical today, and that is the idea of turning a lecture hall into a community of inquiry. I am really excited to dive into this with you all, especially since I am not doing this alone today. Joining me this afternoon as my co-moderator is one of our very own UDI alumni fellows. Sir Ton, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Mama Beth. And once again po, good afternoon to everybody who are joining us here on Zoom. And may time pa, di ba, ma'am, to invite our colleagues, our friends to join us in this special webinar. I'm Ton Clemente, a UDI alumni fellow from the University of the Philippines. At hindi ko po alam about you, no, but we often talk about innovation as if it's only about the latest software or AI tool.
Mhm.
But this afternoon is our reminder that the most powerful innovation is often high touch rather than just high tech. I'm so honored and excited, no, to introduce just a little later our colleagues from UP, no, who are here with us to share how Philosophy for Children, or P4C, no, yun po yung acronym that you will get to know more this afternoon. Yung P4C isn't just for kids anymore. It's actually a brilliant way to completely flip the script on how we teach in higher ed.
That's right. Sir Ton, before you introduce our three speakers this afternoon, may I just say that I am wearing purple today to celebrate Women's Month. We have
Hmm.
three equally outstanding resource speakers for this afternoon, and I'm sure everybody is very excited to learn from these three experts from the University of the Philippines. So again, for those of you, I think there are still quite some people who are trying to join the Zoom webinar today. So just a reminder to kindly, if you could, please rename yourself on Zoom with your HEI initials followed by your name. But if you are, of course, having trouble with the settings, don't worry. Just drop the name of your respective university or institution in the chat box so we can acknowledge the HEI that you are representing.
Okay, so another reminder po for our Q&A, we want this to be a real conversation po, no? So if you have a question or a thought pops into your head while our speakers are talking, you don't have to wait, just type your questions, your comments, whatever it is that's on your mind, just type them in the chat right away. We've set aside time at the end to get through as many as we can.
That's right, Sir Ton. And for those of you who might be wondering already about the certificates, don't worry, we got you. So just stick around until the end and make sure to fill out the quick evaluation form, which will be, the link will be posted in the chat box later. And we will also put the QR code on screen as we wrap up our session.
Okay, the series is brought to you by Colab UDI, and for us, this isn't just a webinar, it's our space where we move past the theory and look at what our fellows and our colleagues are actually doing on the ground. No? Today's big question: what if our classrooms become communities of inquiry? This really challenges that old school model where the teacher talks and the students just listen. We're looking at how to make students active partners in building wisdom. No? Just out of curiosity, Mama Beth, kung okay lang, pwede ba natin malaman kung ilan, how many in our Zoom room at the moment are teachers or educators? Can you give us like a heart or any
Mhm.
emoji reacts just so we know? Ayan,
Yan.
okay. So we're
So
seeing
we are now
flood.
flooded with heart
Yes,
emojis.
and
Okay.
Mama Beth, meron din mga nagre-raise ng hand. So we
That's
see you
right.
po. We see you. Thank you for clicking the emoji and for making your presence felt. And again, just out of curiosity, do we have participants here who are students? Meron po ba tayong students here? Can you also give us like an
A heart
emoji?
react.
Yun, meron din po. Welcome.
Wow.
Yes. Okay, see. MD Imran Tarifdar. Thank you so much for being here. Um, and so the session is for all of us, no? And this is a special collaboration with UP Diliman Department of Philosophy and the ASEAN University Network Gender Justice and Inclusion Thematic Network.
That's right, Sir Ton. And to help us navigate this, we have invited three educators from the University of the Philippines Diliman campus who are truly walking the talk. They've been pioneers in taking the P4C framework and showing how it can really foster the kind of deep collaborative thinking our university students need today.
So please join us in welcoming our speakers from the College of Social Sciences and Philosophy, University of the Philippines, Diliman. So get ready with your clap heart, festive emojis, reacts here on Zoom. Our first speaker is Dr. Lilibeth Lumagbas, Associate Professor in the Department of Philosophy. Our second speaker will be Dr. Lisa Ruth Ocampo, the professor and chairperson of the Department of Philosophy. And our third speaker is Dr. Maria Teresa T. Payangayong, professor, again from the Department of Philosophy. Happy Women's Month, everybody. And whenever you're ready po, the floor is yours to help us reimagine what our classrooms can truly become.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for being here. The title of the presentation that I will be sharing with you this afternoon is Reconceptualizing Our Perspectives of Childhood Through the Frames of Philosophy of Childhood, Kapwa, and Ethics of Space. Now, let me begin with a question that may seem to be simple, but actually it's quite unsettling. Um, when do we become fully formed persons? Is it when we reach adulthood, when we enter university, or when we become professionals? In higher education, we often operate under the assumption that our students are, and even ourselves, no, have already arrived at a point of maturity defined by independence, rationality, and self sufficiency. But what if these assumptions are fundamentally incomplete? Today, I invite you to reconsider this perspective. I will argue that the human person is not best understood as a finished individual, but as a being who is always still becoming, always in relations with others, and deeply shaped by the spaces we inhabit. To do this, I will reconstruct, hopefully, our perspectives through three philosophical frames: philosophy of childhood, kapwa, a key concept in Filipino ethics, and ethics of space. Okay, let us begin with the philosophy of childhood. Traditionally, childhood is understood as a stage of deficiency. You may say that, oh, teka lang, parang napakabigat naman ata niyang deficiency. But then, often, children are seen as not yet rational, not yet independent, not yet complete, no? In fact, if we are going to accept this framework, education, perhaps, no, becomes a process of moving the child towards adulthood, towards completion. Education becomes, in that sense, we see children as adult in the making, no? However, philosophy of childhood challenges this model. It tells us that children are not are not incomplete adults, but they are thinkers in their own right, capable of questioning and reflecting, open to the world in ways that adults often are not. Children, then, is not a lack or a deficiency, it is a mode of being. A mode characterized by openness, curiosity, vulnerability, and dependence on others. In terms of curiosity, I always love telling this story. When my daughter was around 4 or 5 years old, she asked me, who is older? Is it Jesus or the dinosaurs? And I was like, oh no, how am I going to answer this question? Because if I say it's the dinosaurs, then God, how come Jesus is there when there's no human beings yet in the way we know human beings now? And if I say Jesus, then how come Jesus was there during the time of dinosaurs? I honestly was like, oh my God, I was so unsettled by the questions. And in fact, it is a sort of like, I would like to believe an encouragement, no, for us to accept that really children ask us questions which are touching our sensibilities, thereby making it really unsettling. So, but here now is the critical move. If childhood rather, is a mode of being, like openness, curiosity, vulnerability, and dependence on others, then it does not disappear with age. It does not simply disappear with age, which means that when our students enter our university, we have to treat them as fully autonomous, fully responsible, directed, which is basically in line with the presupposition that they have left their childhood behind before entering the university. But unfortunately, that is not what we actually observe. Our students are still searching for identity, navigating uncertainty, and trying to make sense of themselves and their world. In other words, they are still becoming. Young adulthood or young adults, it's not to be seen as the end of childhood. It is its transformation, which means that the openness of childhood becomes existential questioning. The dependence of childhood becomes complex form of relationality. And on that note, these traits persist. Openness, curiosity, vulnerability, dependence on others, they persist in young adults. Moving on, the second frame is on kapwa. No? Kapwa is a foundational concept in Filipino philosophy. It is often translated um, as shared self. But this translation does not fully capture. It does not fully capture its depth. Kapwa does not simply mean that we relate to others. It means that the self is fundamentally relational. We are not individuals who later enter into relationships. We are beings who are constituted through relationships from the very beginning. This challenges one of the most dominant assumptions in modern society and in modern education. The idea that the goal is to produce independent individuals. If we take Kapwa seriously, we must rethink this because our students do not learn, grow, or even exist in isolation. They exist in peer groups, in friendships, in networks of supports, in relationships with teachers and mentors. No? Now, think about moments when our students struggle. Do they rely solely on themselves? No. No. They reach out. They lean on others. They co-regulate their emotions and experiences. This leads us to a crucial insight. Autonomy is not independence from others. That is, if we take Kapwa seriously, autonomy is not independence from others. Instead, it is the capacity to navigate relationships. Capacity in navigating or to navigate relationships. Kapwa invites us to move from an individualistic view of the self towards a relational ontology. And if this is true, then education cannot simply about individual achievement or achievements. It must also be about relational formation. Frame number 3, ethics of space. We often think of space as neutral, no, because it serves as the backdrop, no, where our lives is happening, where education is taking place. But space is not neutral. Space shapes how we behave, how we relate, and how we understand ourselves. Um, Using or drawing from phenomenology, particularly Merleau-Ponty, we recognize, no, that we are embodied beings who exist. We are embodied beings who exist in lived space. We do not encounter the world abstractly or in isolation. No? We experience it through environments that structure, that opens to us, no, possibilities, um, that creates for us the opening to translate our possibilities, hopefully, into actualities. Now, um, let us consider the university, di ba? Ang campus or the university, it has multiple spaces. Meron siyang classroom, may offices, may online platforms like this, no? May lecture halls. Each of these, no, under the ethics of space, carries ethical implications. So for example, if the classroom is highly competitive, then you have young adults, no, who are anxious or often stressed. No? Kailangan mapasa ko tong exam, kailangan maging 100 ako. They are often, which may lead to isolation and even silence. No? And when the classroom or the environment is rigid and hierarchical, no, it may discourage participation in class. Pag basungit si teacher, I will not participate. Pag mali ang sagot ko, I will stand up. Or baka mabato ng chalk. At least siguro wala na yun ngayon. Pero during my time, may ganun, no? Ilang beses ako nabato ng chalk sa math class. No? And then, engagement. No? So, but on the other hand, if it's dialogical, if classrooms are dialogical spaces, we have openness. If it's a supportive environment, we create inclusion, belongingness, ethical environment. So what this means is that we are not simply teaching students, we are shaping them through the spaces we create. So the question we must ask is not only what are we teaching, but more importantly, what kind of space are we creating for their becoming, for their becoming. And the synthesis. Let us now bring the three frames together. Childhood plus Kapwa plus ethics of space. From the philosophy of childhood, we learn that human beings are always in the process of becoming. From Kapwa, we learn that self is relational, not isolated. From ethics of space, we learn that this becoming is situated within environments that shape who we can become. that shape who we can become. Together, this leads us to a powerful conclusion. The human person is a relational, spatial, and unfinished being. Now, what does this mean? For administrators, you're not just managing systems, you are designing ethical environments. For professors, you're not just delivering content. It is about creating spaces where students can think, speak, and be recognized. You teach relationally. You teach relationally. And for us teachers, every classroom is an ethical space where students are either enabled or constrained in their becoming. When students, where students are either enabled or constrained in their becoming. I am now in my last slide, and this is a closing reflection. And I want you to reflect with me. You know, we often ask our students, or maybe ourselves as well, um, whether our students are ready for the demands of higher education, for the demands of society. But perhaps the more important question is, are our institutions ready for the realities of the human person, the young Filipino adult? Because the truth is, we do not outgrow childhood. We do not become fully independent. We do not exist outside of relationships or space. We are always, we are always becoming, relating, and being shaped. As such, the task of education is not simply to produce graduates. Our ethos is to cultivate people through relationships, within spaces, and through care. These are my references, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Lily. Please stay with us for the open forum in a little while. Now we are giving back the floor, sharing the floor now with Dr. Liza Ruth Ocampo. Dr. Liza.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ma'am Liza. I'll put you
So,
on spotlight. Okay.
for this afternoon, so I will give a talk on the what if our classrooms become communities of inquiry, the core values of the philosophy for children. So, there's a beautiful and succinct poem that expands yet encapsulates the experience of reimagining higher education through the lens of philosophy for children. And henceforth, I will call it P4C. So I discovered this poem as a 15-year-old during the mid-80s. So lumabas na yung age na nung mid-80s on a retrospect of Philippine poetry event at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. So one of the featured poets was Alfredo Navarro Salanga, who wrote this poem entitled Lesson. Very, very short poem that continues to inspire me in teaching philosophy and also going deeper into the core values of the philosophy for children. Maybe you can show the poem. Hopefully, Ian can show the some verses of the verses of the poem. So the poem goes this way. That it's entitled Lesson. Break open a stone and listen to it cry. You ask why. Don't turn to physics. Physics doesn't explain pain. All it can confirm is the breaking of stone. Next time you hear a broken stone cry, try metaphysics or theology, the disciplines that vegetate explanations. we are now in 2026, almost 800 years from the silent beginnings of the university. No? Precisely, when we talk about the university, we are really talking about higher education. No? While thinking about this talk, I decided to update my Google search on how many universities there are right now in the world. And this is the data that came out from Google. No? Provides roughly 50,000 schools and universities that offer study programs in the world. And the country that has the most universities, I thought it was the United States. I thought it was the United States, but it's actually India, and followed by Indonesia. In India, they have a whooping 5,000, 7,000 universities, colleges and universities, followed by Indonesia, roughly about 4,000 to 4,500. And in our very own country, we are sustaining about 500 universities for the current population of 120 million Filipinos. So when we talk about the fabric that makes up philosophy, because we are talking about the core values, the 4 C's of the philosophy for children. So when we talk about philosophy, we have to refer to the fundamental attitudes of the Greeks. And from them, we learn that true knowledge is steeped in wonder. It is knowledge that has undergone the crucible of criticism and judicious reflection. We may think it is quite facile to say philosophy begins with wonder. It indeed begins in wonder. And wonder is the mirandum. No? Mirandum is that which takes you out of the banality and flatness of the here and now and provides depth to the experience of life. So the opening lines of Aristotle's Metaphysics, Book Alpha, have a natural solemnity and truth to it. All human beings by nature desire to know. As we learned in the presentation of Dr. Lumagbas, no? Children are not deficient persons. No? So they are part of this. No? All human beings by nature desire to know. And I have spent much of my teaching and study trying to go deeper into what Aristotle has to say about this statement, which continues to mesmerize and puzzle most students, no? Especially in the case of the philosophy for children. So to wonder is the prerogative of the thinking person. And the task of philosophy is to make that wonder work in everyday life. What strikes us in philosophy is the claim that in order to apprehend the reality of things, one has to start from the point of view of wonder. And this is the attitude of children. And Dr. Lumagbas showed that in her presentation. No? Children full of energy, daring, no? And they ask the why questions. Simply, no? Without complication. No? They ask why? No? And I think this is so because we almost never associate the lively gaze, no, of the children with boredom. If you think about it, children are never bored. And this is the basic framework of the philosophy for children. So there are 4 C's to take into account in relation to the philosophy for children. But then I will focus on caring thinking towards a community of philosophical inquiry. What are the core values, the 4 C's of philosophy for children? Critical thinking, creative thinking, collaborative thinking, and the 4th is caring thinking. When we had the training in Menham in New Jersey, what really struck me, what really opened up horizons for me was that of the caring thinking. And Matthew Lipman and Anne Sharp in the 1990s introduced caring thinking. So we can ask, what is caring thinking? Slide. Caring thinking is thinking that values value in thinking that value is caring thinking. I'm going to repeat. Thinking that value is caring thinking. And caring thinking has the following characteristics. The first actual element of caring thinking, not yet, it's the last. Okay. The first is caring thinking is an element of multidimensional thinking, along with critical and creative thinking. Most often than not, we are familiar with the creative and critical thinking. And it is and with that, we know that it is not merely a causal condition of thinking, but it is part, no, of thinking, no. And the second aspect of caring thinking is value laden. Emotions shape and direct thought, and which provides them with the framework, with a sense of proposition, with several perspectives, no. And lastly, that thinking is imbued with value does not that make it immune to critical scrutiny, inquiry, and reconstruction. So it doesn't mean that because thinking is imbued with emotion, with value, that it is not permeable in relation to critical scrutiny. No, all types of thinking, especially caring thinking, has to be critically scrutinized. No, and it can be reconstructed. The anthropology that I use in going deeper into what this caring thinking is, no, sees the human being engaged in a community of persons and never thinks of him in individualistic terms. No? So basically, thinking is collaborative. You need other human beings. No? You need a community of inquiry. And in the case of philosophy for children, the community of inquiry becomes a community of philosophical inquiry, wherein students actively participate in such a community. And this type of anthropology is based from the point of view of Aristotle, no? That man, no, grows, no, is a being destined by nature to live in a city. No? The physe politikon zoon, which is often translated today with the same risk of equivocation, is by nature a political animal. That precisely we grow in the polis, no? We grow in the polis, no? And this communitarian social dimension is a fact inseparable from the human being. And it is not a matter of simple and material convenience, no? And in the most personal and most elevated activities require the gathering together of other people. And what kind of relationship, no? Dr. Lumagbas mentioned about relationship, no? Relationship of friendship. In friendship, it is where you can really attain a high level of a community, no? Which is what? Happiness, no? It's not part of the PowerPoint presentation, but Aquinas wrote in the Summa Theologiae that if we are dealing with happiness in the present life, we must say with the philosopher Aristotle that the happy man needs friends. Not indeed to make use of them, since he suffices himself, but for the purpose of good action, which precisely the community of philosophical inquiry embodies. It embodies that. No? And Margaret Sharp had the following insights, no, on the community of inquiry. She said, no, as an education for caring thinking, that students, the children, no, the children are called to care for the tools of inquiry, for the problems they think worthy of inquiry. For them is the form of a dialogue itself, and for each other. That's why the facilitator, the teacher, no, in the community, no, has to really listen carefully, and I would say fraternally, lovingly, in relation to the thoughts of the children. And also, she was able to see another insight that as students practice caring for the tools and procedures of inquiry and each other, they discover themselves as feeling, intuiting, wondering, speculating, loving and willing, thinking and writing persons, young persons. And the students become aware of meaningful structure in the relation of their lives to the world, to their own lives, to the world at large. No? That I am part of a community. That's why I am able to think this way. They discover many things about themselves and the world, including what? Values, things, ideas, ideals, and people that they can care about. Another aspect is that students develop trust for one another as they come to the understanding that their teachers and classmates care about them, that we care for one another. And another insight that she was able to observe, in running the Philosophy for Children program in Montclair University is that students come to believe in their ability to make a difference to the community of inquiry. That each one can make a difference. By what? By challenging the thesis, a thesis of another participant in the classroom, in the community of inquiry, offering a counterexample, or refining another student's contribution. That's why with caring thinking, the collaborative aspect somehow is inputted in that. And lastly, and one important insight that she was able to cull from her years of research and actually a practitioner of the Philosophy for Children program is that the realization that students can and do make a difference in the community of inquiry. And it inspires them to care about what is happening in the world and motivates them to act with greater courage and hope. And somehow the tools, the 4 C's of Philosophy for Children makes you what? An agent, an agent of change. Because precisely you need to care for the others. One of the most beautiful texts that I have encountered studying philosophy and the spirituality of Thomas Aquinas is entitled, "Without Friends, Who Would Want to Live?" Right? Without friends, who would want to live? So this chapter is a key section in the book St. Thomas Aquinas, Spiritual Master, Volume 2. So when it comes to a life well lived within ethical parameters and principles, being a practitioner of the Philosophy for Children, what each human being is ultimately searching for is a true friend, especially in that community. And love demands a social setting because man by nature is a social being. In the words of ancient philosopher scholar, he says, our well-being requires associations. And this is shown especially in the Philosophy for Children program. I need relationships to live out, to make it a gerund, the critical, the creative, the collaborative, and caring type of thinking. Because philia, friendship, is broad enough to include most face-to-face relations in a small community. It is in any association of people who spend time to do things together, share in pains and pleasures, and wish for each other's good, especially in a classroom. So indeed, a classroom can be that very special place of philosophical inquiry. Unlike the values of individualism and self-reliance that the Renaissance and Reformation highlighted in their attempt to raise and celebrate the joy of being human, the banner of friendship, which is not exclusive to one theory or to one time frame or one milieu, rejoices what? In the existence and presence of the other. And I would say the same is true in a community of philosophical inquiry. in the presence of another I in the journey of life, or in the case of that classroom, no, that community of philosophical inquiry classroom, no, we go into the journey, no, to have more insights, not to have to care for more things, no, in caring thinking. And when we think about it more deeply, friendship celebrates the social nature of every human person. In a thinker like Thomas Aquinas, he sees the human being, the student, engage with the community. The idea that we cannot love that what we do not know has been a refrain of human existence. The binary and sometimes contradictory qualities of knowing and loving are the most humanizing of experiences in a person's existence. No? Somehow, in caring thinking, no, what the insight of both Matthew Lipman and Anne Margaret Sharp, you need both things, no, knowing and loving, in coming up, in making a community of inquiry alive. And classical literature celebrates the poetry of both knowing and loving. Both make life worthwhile and living to the full. For the great philosophers, no, the great minds, no, what is remarkable about human beings is that we can communicate and share each other's lives without losing our respective identities in the process, especially in the case of children, especially in the case of our students, especially in a classroom of a community of philosophical inquiry. And even in that divine way of loving, which is charity, we are not and do not want to be struck dumb. The same is true with the students, the children, the child in a community of philosophical inquiry. So thank you and good afternoon to everyone. I am excited to hear your clarifications and maybe questions later.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Lisa, for that. Ma'am Lisa, we're friends, diba?
Yes, we are really friends.
And also, I think we have another friend on board about to speak.
All of them are my friends, my besties.
Sige po. Maybe when we're ready, our good friend as well and our awesome colleague, Ma'am Tess.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me share my screen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can hear
ma'am,
you.
loud and clear.
All right. Okay. Good
Mm.
afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, CoLab UDI, and of course, the Department of Philosophy and AUN Gender Justice and Inclusion for this opportunity to share with you Koi in Hey. Okay, COI in HEI. For my talk today, I will structure the discussion around four key questions. No? Kasi I was actually recently interviewed by our university's radio station, DZUP, and that experience made me realize more the importance of understanding philosophy for children through key questions. And so since asking questions is an effective way to understand concepts and explore new ideas, let me discuss Koi in Hey around these key questions. Okay, so let's move to the first question. Okay. So when we say philosophy for children or P4C, what is its goal and how did it begin as an educational practice in the Philippines, no? So philosophy for children or P4C was initiated by Professor Matthew Lipman, no? Siya yung naka all black with the children dito sa picture. It was initiated by Professor Lipman in the late 1960s while he was teaching at Columbia University. So the 1960s was actually a time of social conflict, no? There was the civil rights movement, um, Vietnam War, the counterculture movement, the feminist movement, of course, it gained momentum, no, in the 1960s. And then there's the modern LGBTQIA plus rights movement. So the late 1960s was a time when many people questioned authority, traditional norms, and the role of government, no? And so it led to widespread protests and societal shifts, no? It was a time of social conflict, mainly due to a combination of political, cultural, and economic factors, no? So there was also increasing interest in educational programs during that time. The emphasis was fostering thinking skills, no? So that individuals should be able to think independently, especially in the face of conflicting values, no? Kasi nga, ang daming movements nung panahong yon, students or the youth may be easily swayed, no? Without fully understanding the cause. So Matthew Lipman was particularly worried that schools were turning students into passive recipients of knowledge instead of encouraging them to think critically. Na-experience na to, niya ito sa sarili niyang klase. No? In his own classes in Columbia University, he was concerned over the passivity of his students, no? Whose mouths were always open, no, ready to swallow whatever it is that he will feed them. So it was a realization for Lippmann that students were often told what to think rather than encouraged to think for themselves. And so Lippmann saw philosophy as an ideal tool to counteract this, no? Given its emphasis on questioning, on critical thinking, the exploration of fundamental concepts, no, such as justice, freedom, rights, truth, no. So his Philosophy for Children project aimed to foster intellectual curiosity, critical thinking, creativity, and reasoning among children, no. And then Lippmann met Anne Margaret Sharp, no, at Montclair State University in 1970s. During this time, Lippmann had also moved to Montclair State University, and together, they developed university programs for P4C. So P4C is a thinking skills program built on the innate sense of wonder of children. So the thinking skills or core values being fostered are critical, creative, and caring thinking, no? I won't go into details about what these thinking skills are, as Professor Ocampo has already explained them earlier, no? But in recent years, so dati tatlo lang to, no? 3 Cs, no? Tapos naging 4 Cs. Naging 4 Cs na siya in recent years, no? The three core values have been strengthened by the addition of collaborative thinking. So this goes beyond simple teamwork, no? Collaborative thinking means involving active listening, respecting others' perspectives, and developing deeper understanding through dialogue. So P4C considers thinking to be at the center of education, no? While the content of education matters, the foundation of education should be the quality of thinking that goes on in the classroom, no? So these are parameters for better thinking and higher order thinking. And as much as what is being taught is important, how it is being taught and to what extent the children's capacity for thinking is enhanced are also fundamental considerations. That is the goal of P4C, to enhance the different thinking skills. And alongside the enhancement of the thinking skills, the methodology of Philosophy for Children also seeks to develop the classroom into a community of inquiry, or COI. This will be explained later, no? How did P4C begin as an educational practice in the Philippines? The P4C program in the Philippines began with a seminar workshop aimed at providing public school teachers in Manila with a strong foundation in 4 subject areas, no? HECA-C, Math and Science, English, and Filipino, no? So it was from July 1993 to March 1994 when elementary school teachers from Manila's public schools participated in this workshop. I think Professor Ocampo was one of the facilitators then, no? So the participants were introduced to key concepts in ethics, in philosophy of science, in epistemology, no, and even in socio-political philosophy. This initiative was spearheaded by Professor Zosimo Lee, who later met Matthew Lipman and Anne Margaret Sharp in 1996, no? And I also had the opportunity to meet Lipman and Sharp in 2005 naman, no? When they served as trainers, no? In an intensive P4C training that I attended in Mendham in New Jersey, no? So P4C courses were eventually offered at the Department of Philosophy in UP Diliman, and the department has since organized various training workshops across the country. So at present, the department is in communication with the Institute for the Advancement of Philosophy for Children at Montclair State University to explore potential collaboration on establishing a P4C center, no? Yung director nito, si Professor Mon Gregory, we met with him in Mendam, and he has expressed support for the proposal and a willingness to meet with us again to discuss it further. So, ito yung second question. If you were to sit in on a P4C session, what would we see? What does the teacher do? And what do the students do? Okay. In a typical P4C session, you will usually find 5 elements, no? A community of inquiry, a stimulus, the formulation of questions, a discussion of the chosen question, and finally, panglima, a reflection or evaluation of what the community has achieved, no? In a community of inquiry, a classroom becomes the arena where questions of the students become the primary focus, no, of the learning process. And the teacher becomes primarily a facilitator, no, to guide and help shape, no, the learning agenda so that the students themselves feel they are co-responsible for their own learning. A community of inquiry is created when students begin to appreciate the ideas of each member of the class and that their interaction and dialogue help build a larger answer, no, to the questions under consideration than what would have been provided only by the teacher or by the book or textbook. Inquiry, as the pursuit of truth and knowledge, becomes the most important goal of the classroom, no? So this means COI is a dialogue in which students think together about deep ideas through questioning and reasoning. It's not about finding the right answer, but about learning how to think well with others. So in a COI, the following are commonly observed, no? Pag pumasok ka sa isang COI, no, classroom, students sit in a circle so they can see one another, katulad nitong nasa picture. Merong shared rules that you develop collectively. Halimbawa ng rules, we have to listen respectfully. We give reasons when we claim something or an argument. We build on each other's ideas, no? And then we also commonly observe that the teacher acts as a facilitator rather than a lecturer, no? And the emphasis is placed on collaborative thinking rather than traditional instruction. Next element is stimulus, no? For the stimulus, each session begins with a stimulus to spark the participants' thinking, no? This is usually something that encourages children to reflect and ask questions, such as a short story, a video clip, no? A song, a poem, and pwede rin, in one of my classes, dito sa picture sa baba, we also use different types of headwear, no? Kasi yung mga estudyante hindi pa sanay magbasa, no? If I remember it correctly, mga 3-year-old lang itong mga ito, no? And other similar materials. So the most common stimulus is a philosophical novel, no? Katulad nitong Lisa, Pixie, Harry Stottlemyer's Discovery, no? Ikaklit sa Aming Hardin. It's a philosophical novel that depicts the narratives of children also engaged in inquiry, no? And so there is a form of community of inquiry din dun sa dialogue nila, no? So the questions are based on what might be considered as philosophical wonder, which presumably all children at some point or other actually worry about, no? But may not have been given the opportunity or the ability to explore and ponder, no? Alam naman natin na maraming tanong ang mga bata, no? Pero ang tanong, sinasagot ba natin yung mga tanong nila? Or do we oftentimes dismiss them, no? Are we guilty of saying, for example, naku, ang dami mong tanong, busy ako, no? Or, huwag kang makisali sa usapan ng matatanda, no? So the cultural bias that is being proposed, no, in a community of inquiry is the cultivation and encouragement of questioning as the basic experience, no? That is the beginning of inquiry and learning. Okay? Surprise, Ma'am Beth. Nasa kaliwa si Ma'am Beth. After the stimulus, students first take time to reflect, no? Then they formulate their own questions and then they write them on the board and they add their names after each question, no? And then they share the questions they have come up with the group, no? After this, the questions are clarified kasi syempre posibleng ang daming questions niya, no? The class votes on which question to discuss, no? So in this way, the process is democratic, no? And it gives students a sense of ownership kasi may mga pangalan yung tanong, no? And once a question or a couple of questions, no, are selected, the discussion begins, no? The chosen question becomes the focus of the dialogue. So during the discussion, the following can be observed, no? The students give reasons for their opinions. Some would agree, some would disagree, and others would build on another classmate's ideas, no? Karaniwan maririnig natin, ano, statements such as, I agree with blah, blah, blah because blah, blah, blah. I would like to challenge that idea. Or, can you explain what you mean? No? So, they also provide examples and counterexamples, and at times, some participants even change their minds, no? Kapag na-convince sila sa arguments ng iba. As for the teacher, in their role as facilitator, they ask deeper, probing questions. They encourage quieter or less participative students to contribute. They ensure that the discussion remains orderly and respectful, and they refrain from giving the correct answer. No? So basically, these are some characteristics of a philosophical facilitator. No? Loves ideas, doesn't think she knows everything, sees herself as a co-inquirer with the children, models and prompts good inquiry, asks open-ended questions, poses alternative views, asks for clarification, helps make connections, challenges reasons, self-corrects openly, doesn't force the inquiry to predetermined ends, doesn't attempt to validate every opinion, respects children as persons, taking what they have to say seriously, draws out the philosophical significance of the children's contributions, and expects the students to internalize the procedures of good inquiry, no? As they reconstruct their own philosophical views. And then at the end, there is a reflection phase, no? Yung nasa community of inquiry rin, yung buong klase, yung magre-reflect or mag-self-evaluate, no? With questions such as, did we do well as a group, no? What did we do well as a group, no? Did anyone change their mind? Were we able to give sufficient reasons? What helped make the discussion effective? What do we understand now that about the question that we did not understand before? Are we giving each other reasons for our views? Are we listening to each other? Are we able to stick to the point? Ano pa ba? Are we able to build on each other's ideas? Who is doing the talking, no? Do we correct each other with sensitivity? Do we trust each other? No? So this part is important in deepening awareness of one's own thinking. Through this process, the goals of P4C become evident, no? Particularly in developing critical, creative, caring, and collaborative thinking. The third question is, how do we reimagine higher education through P4C? How do we practice COI in HEY, no? Or community of inquiry in higher educational institutions? So for this part, the old and new paradigms were taken from Professor Venice Lusong Oizon's report on the futures of higher education. Tapos yung shift that is supported by COI, yun yung aking dagdag, no? So in the old paradigm, knowledge is transferred from faculty to students. In the new paradigm, it is co-constructed by students and faculty. So the shift from old to new paradigm is supported by COI from teacher as authority to teacher as facilitator, as explained earlier. In the old paradigm as well, students are passive vessels to be filled by faculty's knowledge. No? Yun yung naranasan ni Lipman, remember? Sa Columbia University. In the new paradigm, they are active constructors, discoverers, transformers of knowledge, intellectually versatile, with greater flexibility in their career choices, and they develop as autonomous learners, no, through the process of self-discovery. So this shift from the old to new paradigm is supported by COI from passive students to active thinkers. And then in terms of the mode of learning, the old paradigm presents students as memorizing facts and striving for right answers, no? The new paradigm, on the other hand, presents them as relating and searching for sense and meaning. And this shift is supported by COI with students struggling from rote memorization to ones who understand concepts and connect ideas, no, to their own experiences. For student growth and goals naman, students strive to complete requirements and achieve certification within a discipline in the old paradigm, no? Whereas in the new paradigm, students strive to achieve continual, no, lifelong learning within a broader system to contribute for the improvement of society and the world. So there is deep learning and there is preparation for a life of change and uncertainty, no? And this shift is again supported by COI as it values collective growth and social responsibility. And lastly, in terms of context, students are viewed as competitive, no, in the old paradigm, while the new paradigm encourages collaborative learning in classroom and collaborative teams, no, even among the faculty. Kaya merong transdisciplinarity or interdisciplinarity. And this shift is supported by COI from competition to collaboration, from individual performance to shared understanding, and from isolated disciplines to interconnected learning, no? Lastly, the fourth question is, what is the role of the family and the school, no, the university, in creating a safe and open space for children to ask questions? The role of both the family and the university or school in creating a safe and open space for children to ask questions is very important. Of course, the first space for students is the family, and the second is the school. Tapos ngayon, may third space na rin, ano? In UP Diliman, the third space is for students' health and wellness. So if these two, yung family and school, contradict each other, the child may become confused, no? For example, children may feel free to ask questions at home, no? But are discouraged from doing so at school, and vice versa. So the school may provide an open and supportive environment for questioning, but when children return home, they may feel restricted, no? So there has to be consistency. In other words, both the family and the school should work together to create safe and open spaces for children's inquiry. This helps build a stronger foundation when they engage with the third space beyond the family and school, no? Therefore, it is important to have to have and include the creation of safe and open spaces for children in policies and training programs. Yan. So these are my references, and that would be all for my talk today. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ayan. Thank you very much, Dr. Tess. And of course, the rest of our speakers from the University of the Philippines. I think they will be put on spotlight as well. What a thought-provoking session it was. My God. Na-absorb ba ng lahat? Talagang we are totally engaged with the sharing of our three powerful speakers this afternoon. It's fascinating to see how the community of inquiry, or the COI model, shifts the power dynamic in a classroom from the professor to the group. Dr. Ton, let's dive into some questions. I'm sure we have questions already. So take it away, Sir Ton.
Yes, thank you so much, Mama Beth. And as a reminder for everybody, as what our speakers have reiterated this whole afternoon, we are a community of inquiry. So we welcome extremely all your thoughts, all your questions, no? You can send them via the chat function here, or if you're feeling a little bit shy, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit later, no, Mama Beth, yung the idea of when students are a little bit shy to ask their questions. What
That's
can we do?
right.
So if you're
That's
a bit
right.
shy, you can send your questions directly to me or to Mama Beth privately, and then we'll read them. We'll read them on air. On air. Okay, so maybe we can start with this question because it's very thought provoking, and maybe we have some bashers, no, in the around us when it comes to these ideas. In the sense that people are curious, but maybe a little bit skeptical, no, about our core principles, no. Maybe by choice or maybe by circumstance, maybe because of prior training where we see, the teacher as like the sage on the stage, di ba? And we're talking about a culture shift here, or a shift in our perspective. So, I guess for our first question, how do you, what do you think should be the first step in making this shift in our mindset? Now, so I think this is part of our convincing exercise, no, for our faculty and also our students. But for our faculty members, maybe, or educators who might still be a bit skeptical about this, no, what do you think can be the first step in shifting the mindset?
Sige, siguro simulan ko ng sumagot, no? Yes, I understand. I understand, that it can be quite challenging, no? Why? Because it requires unlearning, a deeply rooted cultural expectation, 'di ba? Kapag maestra ka, 'di ba? When you're the professor, you're the primary authority and the source of knowledge, 'di ba? Many faculty members are used to um, equating good teaching then with clear authoritative explanations, ano. So yung pag-shift to a facilitative role may initially feel like you're losing your control, no? Or parang, teka, ba't parang hindi ako yung expert dito sa classroom, no? So, yung tanong kasi is, what is the first step in making that mindset shift? That's the first step. Mindset shift. Okay? Recognizing, no, that teaching is not about providing answers, no, but about guiding students in the process of thinking, no? And this begins with asking open-ended questions and creating space, no, for students to explore ideas even when their responses are incomplete or uncertain, no. Idagdag ko na rin, ano, bakit nga ba may cultural expectation, ano, sa isang faculty member or sa isang professor to have the tyranny of right and wrong answers, no? Na Pag nagtanong ka, pag sinabi ng teacher na, no, that is incorrect. Or pag may nagtanong, sasabihin niya, this is the correct answer, no? Bakit nga ba nagkaroon ng ganun, ano, ng cultural expectation? Sa ilang mga nabasa ko, it's because of the lack of um, library resources, no? At some point, no? Na walang access ang mga estudyante sa libraries, sa mga resources, at yung teachers lang yung merong access. Kaya, when it comes to classroom settings, sila yung may dala ng lahat ng impormasyon because students have no access to the resources, no? So itatanong natin, bigyan sila ng ano, mga libro, ganyan. Siyempre kulang tayo sa lack nga may lack of resources, no? So gusto ko lang ibanggitin 'yon para ma-contextualize din natin where where did that cultural expectation come from. I hope I was able to answer that question.
Very helpful. I don't know po if there's anything that Ma'am Lilibeth or Ma'am Lisa would like to add. Now, we have questions coming in na trickling in na sa ating chat box na. So we can proceed po to the other questions or you can feel free po to add to what Ma'am Tess just mentioned.
Ang idadagdag ko lang po doon sa sagot ni Ma'am Tess, yung siguro po yung kahandaan ng mga guro to move away from the adult script. Yung po yung adult script, tinatawag ko po siyang adult script kasi ito po yung nakasanayan natin bilang guro o bilang matanda na ito ang dapat gawin, ito ang tamang forma ng pagsasalita, ito ang tamang sagot, no? So we start to move away from that adult script and accept na lahat tayo co-journeyers sa learning. And that is, if we are able to accept that, siguro makakalimutan na natin na yung ako teacher, ikaw estudyante. Kundi tayo lahat ay, again, co-journeyers in learning.
Ako naman, yung pinag-iisipan ko yung sinabi ni Doc Tess at saka ni Doc Lily, no? I go back to the Greeks, no? To listen and maybe to really rethink, no, the figure of Socrates, yung cross-examination nga, no, and how to ask good questions together with the community of inquiry nga, of philosophical inquiry. No? And another good insight, no, na I got from the talk of Dr. Tess, no, the one of the family, yung family, the collaboration between the family, the university, no, na how to create that kind of culture wherein precisely it's conversation, no, conversare, no, or dialogue, no, na hindi nating mamaliitin yung sinabi nga, na hindi natin mamaliitin yung sinasabi ng mga nakababatang mga estudyante. Dahil nga mas marami kang nabasa, ito yung mga librong, ito yung experiences mo, ito yung conferences na napuntahan mo, no? Pero talagang to appreciate the existential conversation in the classroom and outside the classroom, so that we will know how to listen to one another, no? Yung the voices of our voices, and our, maybe the vision, no, of our experiences, no, in relation to coming up with a community of philosophical inquiry.
Okay, thank you very much po. Now, I think, Sir Ton, we can move on to the question in the chat box. For our speakers, feel free to unmute yourselves na lang po kung sino po ang gustong sumagot. So we have a question here from Ma'am Ella Marie Barrio Quinto from CIT University. As adults who have the notion that our experiences and observations make us politically sound, which we might or might not be, how can we share political facts without being one, preachy, aray ko, biased to any parties, diminishing to their own understanding as youth? Her students do ask, but she wished to sound like she is open to discussions and not demeaning to the youth in any way. Ayan. How can we address her query po, mga ma'am?
Shall I answer this? Para sa akin po, practice the 4 Cs. No? Yung critical, creative, caring, and collaborative thinking, no? Especially yung binigyan ng DN ng emphasis, no, ni Professor Ocampo, yung caring thinking, no? Because caring thinking means being able to give attention to what are worthy of consideration and value, no? And that which one focuses on, no? Is given importance because of the attention that is provided. So mahalaga na nakikinig tayo sa mga estudyante nila, sa mga tanong nila, but more importantly, ang caring thinking, it also refers to understanding where people are coming from, no? So actually in my experience conducting P4C sessions and communities of inquiry, no? May isang tanong ako na talagang hanggang ngayon, ang tagal na nito mga hindi ko na sabihin pala yung year, no? But it's a session we did in Mindoro, and then one student approached me, no? Ang tanong niya, bakit po mali yung drawing ko, no? So parang he was asking, ano to grade 4 student. Bakit po mali yung artwork ko, no? So I began thinking, oh nga no, pag artwork ko yun eh. Sarili ko yung drawing eh, paano yun gigradean, ano? So I asked him, no, ito yung caring thinking na binabanggit ko. We have to understand where people are coming from. I asked him, bakit mali yung drawing mo? Lahat daw ng kaklase niya may red na check yung kanilang drawing ng Carabao. Okay? Yung drawing niya ng Carabao, yung kulay niya green. So may X na malaki because of the color that he used. So sabi ko, why did you use green? Sabi niya, kasi po yung kalabaw namin laging nakalusong sa may maraming lumot. So green po talaga yung kulay nila. So you see the value of trying to understand where people are coming from. And so when students ask us, no, hindi naman natin kailangang maging demeaning, no, to them, to the students. Hindi naman kailangan na i-put down whatever they have to say, no? Let's practice caring thinking and let's listen to them, no? Kasi lagi kong sinasabi, no, kahit bata may salay-sayin yan, na may gustong sabihin yan.
Kung naman yung naisip ko, kasi wala talagang neutral, there's no really neutral position. No? Kasi dapat lahat kasi tayo may position, di ba? And not to be afraid, yun nga, not to be afraid and not to underestimate the students that they will bash Ash for our maybe position in relation to an issue, no? Kasi dun yung beauty, no? Yun ang beauty ng mga nung dialogues ni Plato, 'di ba? Pinapakita niya nga, no, with Socrates, no? As one of the great facilitators, no, of conversations, na may value lahat yung premises ng mga tao dun sa loob ng nung conversation nga, 'di ba? Pero sa akin yung not to be afraid of or not wanting to be neutral. Kasi wala talagang neutral na na position, especially sa politics, no? Or sabihin natin, yun nga kanina napag-usapan yung aesthetic experience, no? Tapos tama nga yung insight ni Prof. Tess na let us be caring. No? Let us practice caring thinking kasi madali yung critical thinking eh. Madali yung somehow andun na yan yung critical, yung creative, no, even collaborative, pero yung caring thinking nga, how do you empathize and really what she said earlier, where people are coming from and precisely to appreciate, no, the value of such context, no? Kasi nga mahirap maging neutral eh. So not to be afraid no kung lalabas yung kulay natin o yung boses natin in relation to sa landscape nga, the landscape of the experiences, especially in relation to political matters.
Panghuli na lang po siguro ito. Encounter kasi, yung kada klase encounter, kada tanong encounter. Kaya sa bawat encounter, pwedeng mayanig mismo ikaw sa mga tanong ng mga estudyante natin. At ang tanong doon is, paano mo siya tatanggapin? Magiging masungit ka ba? Papatayin mo ba yung konsepto? O mismong ikaw magtatanong sa sarili mo, bakit ko nga ba nasabi yon? Kaya ang unang tanong, bakit mo iha nasabi yon? O iho, bakit mo sinabi yan? At doon po dati makikita na talagang yung sinasabi ng marami na itong differences na to, root ito ng isang magandang resulta. Kasi in the midst of our differences, we will find our commonality.
Yes, that's right. And I think that leads to another question in the chat box. We have here another question. How do we facilitate respectful disagreements? Ayan. Anyone can unmute po? I think due to the limitation of time, Sir Ton and our dear speakers, we can entertain at least one last question which just came in a couple minutes ago. So dito muna po tayo. This will be not the last question. May isa pa po tayo. But don't worry, we will share with you all the contact details of our speakers just in case you want to reach out to them po. Okay, going back sa disagreements po tayo, respectful disagreements.
In the context of a community of inquiry, just like what I mentioned earlier, di ba, rules are set collectively. So kumbaga may parang may rules of engagement ba, no? When you engage in a community of inquiry, you know that you have to respect each other, you have to uh, um, build on each other's ideas, etc. So rules are set, no? But in the context outside, no, the community of inquiry, paano nga ba, no? Actually maganda yung tanong, pero mahirap din siyang sagutin, no? Paano paano ano nga yung tanong?
How to have respectful disagreements.
How to have respectful disagreement? Siguro
Mm.
medyo slow the pace, kalmahin ang sarili. Instead of counter-attacking, ask questions. Parang kung talagang sobrang hin if you disagree vehemently on what another person is saying, medyo kasi ang disrespect nag-escalate yan when you react instantly no? And so try slowing the pace, no? Sa halip na hindi, mali ka, etc., no? Yung magdi-disagree ka vehemently, magtanong ka, no? What do you mean by that? So do you mean that blah blah blah, no? So instead of counter-attacking or counter-arguing, ask questions instead. Kaya very safe tayo sa asking questions di ba? And of course, mahirap ito, no? Lalo kapag nagkakaedad na, no? I'm not being ageist here, no? Pero maganda that it is important that we use pauses. Yung magpo-pause tayo intentionally, yung medyo okay, nagiinit na. Medyo quiet muna ako saglit, no? Pero but that does not mean, no, na you will not um, say your piece anymore, or you will not argue anymore. Just use some pauses, no, in the discussion, para pag dire-diretso kasi na sagutan yan, talagang magkakaroon ng mag-escalate ang disrespect, no. I hope I was able to answer that question.
Anything else po you'd like to add, or can we proceed po to hope? Well, sorry po, we're seeing a lot of questions po coming in from our colleagues, but I think po we can, or Mama Beth, would you like to acknowledge the...
Okay. We go back to Ma'am Ellen. Ma'am Ellen, we saw you raising your hand po. Would you like to unmute? Sir Ton, we also have two more questions, I think, aside from, so I don't know if our speakers here have enough time to, I think extending a few more minutes to answer this, or they can just send this to email maybe.
Sige po. And then we'll see po if we can combine some of the questions that we're
Yes.
seeing here.
Yes, that's
Sige
right.
po.
Ma'am Ellen, would you like to unmute po? Ma'am Ellen from
Oh,
USTP.
yes, ma'am. Yes po, thank you very much for hello? Can you hear me po?
Yes,
Hello?
ma'am, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes po. So thank you, ma'am. Actually, I'm very thankful for this itong seminar na po nito kasi it's my first time to hear about this topic, but actually it's not my first time knowing this kasi I was actually implementing this kind of teaching strategy right now in electrical engineering po. But I don't have a name for it. So parang it came into for me as a shock na meron palang ganitong known na principle. So but what I was implementing right now po is something related to Montessori, which is still a principle for children po. So actually, my question would be na yung I'm not sure if na answer po yung question ko kanina kasi how do you concretize this kind of teaching strategy? Kasi for me, it's something very vague right now because I was only implementing something na it just comes, okay, I think this yung what I learned about children because as a mother po, I have learned many things regarding Montessori. So, that is what I am trying to implement sa mga students ko, which are electrical engineering students. So, may I just to ask if this has been implemented in other schools, in other courses po ba here in the Philippines na they're actually recognizing this kind of teaching strategy and was it effective po kanila?
Yes po, no? Kanina I provided just a brief history, no, of P4C in the Philippines, but as early as 1990s po, early 1990s, nagsimula na po ang P4C in the Philippines. And now we are offering courses in the undergraduate level, in the undergraduate, graduate, no, MA and PhD levels. So at patuloy po yung collaborations with different SUCs and LUCs, no, to conduct teachers training po on philosophy for children.
Ito pong philosophy na to, you're applying it to your aligned course po, which is yung course niyo po, which is philosophy.
And we offer courses in the BA, MA, and PhD philosophy degree programs, no? Particularly in UP Diliman. Pero kung ang tanong nyo po, do we apply P4C or COI in other subjects, no? Like I mentioned earlier po,
Other
ma'am.
courses po, like for me po, I'm teaching electrical engineering.
Yes po.
So,
Yes. Meron po. May mga gumagamit po. Math and Science, Filipino English, HECAC. Tulad nung binanggit ko po kanina, dun po nagsimula yung seminar workshop among Manila public school teachers. And
which are in high school or also in higher education na po yan.
yes, in higher education po, meron na pong gumagawa. Meron na pong nagtuturo.
So, it is a recognized na teaching strategy po yung principles for children.
Yes, it's a
Yun po yung
pedagogical
name talaga niya.
Yes, it's a pedagogical approach po that is currently being used in various universities. So it may have started from UP, pero ngayon po ang Ateneo, De Manila University, ang UST, they also engage in P4C. Lumawak na po.
Okay, thank you so much po ma'am kasi first time ko po talaga to narinig. So, I'm thankful na yung mga ginagawa ko sa classroom, meron po pala siyang pangalan.
Opo, opo. Actually, marami po kaming naririnig na ganyang comment, no, na, dati ko na yung ginagawa. Well and good po, di ba? Kailangan lang po nating mas matutuhan pa kung paano natin palalakasin yon, yung dati na nating ginagawa.
Yes, thank you so much po ma'am for that
Thank you
answer.
po. Thank you po for the questions.
Okay, so meron po tayong mga questions coming in from, i-recognize lang po natin na sila, SL Pontillas, Felipe Jr., at si Imran, and also si Sir Bong, hello Sir Bong, and Father Rock, hello po Father Rock. We'll try po to cover given po the time constraint, let's see pa how we can integrate all of the questions in the chat box. And I think what we're getting here is that there are parang we are all coming from various contexts. And I think yung question din ni Ma'am Ellen sort of is a good transition point because I think what I'm getting from her is parang can I apply what you're talking about, itong P4C principles, even in uh, uh, subjects like engineering, di po ba? No, so given po siguro all of these parang mga structural barriers or realities in higher ed, no? Also when we talk about yung mga syllabus pressure, having fixed curricula, and also evolving learning environments, no? Like uh, increasingly being heavy in online, hybrid environments, use of AI. Sa tingin niyo po, if we're going to have like a key takeaway from this afternoon, parang ano yung mga reminders, what are some reminders that we can have as educators, no, so that we can meaningfully implement a community of inquiry, no? Or parang what does it take to practice a genuine community of inquiry that might work across the various barriers, various contexts, no, and various evolutions po in our learning landscape. I don't know if that kind of gives justice to the questions here, but maybe yun po, no? So something that you can, parang a reminder for us all so that, okay, I think we're doing it more or less correctly, no?
Ako babalik ako dun sa para magkaroon ka ng community of philosophical inquiry, community of inquiry, na lahat tayo sa universidad, even sa labas ng universidad, no, basic, senior high, higher education, nga, lahat tayo, sana nga magkakaibigan in relation to the journey of for caring thinking. So that each one, no, because each one's experience, each one's stake, no, kaya nga valuable siya, no. So yun yung never to go against that somehow tendency na all men by nature desire to know. Pero nga with philosophy for children, yung apat na C's, sinabi nga kayo ni Doc Lilibeth at saka ni Doc Tess, no? Let's walk the talk. Kasi nandito na tayo sa community na to no? We are in an academic community wherein precisely andyan na yung things. Tsaka hindi naman lumalabas na anything goes Kasi talagang may rules, no, and standards for engagement Be a facilitator, no, to be a student nga. May rules of engagement nga para dun sa encounters, no, using the terminology of Merleau-Ponty, no. And to go back to that, as friends, okay, all men by nature desire to know. So that papalawakin mo nga, no? Kaya talagang maging philosophical siya. hindi lang siya community of inquiry, pero it's gonna be a community of philosophical inquiry, no, with the others. Yun ang naiisip ko. Like, we have to exercise it, no? To walk the talk. Kasi andyan eh. Kasi nga, ang dami ng theories, di ba? Ang dami ng principles. Nag-develop na yung philosophy of education. No? But I think the challenge in the Philippine context is that all professors of any discipline, we walk the talk in precisely we want to validate the contribution of our students in that growing community of philosophical inquiry. Kasi pwede mo naman talagang i-apply maski sa hard science, soft science. So yun lang naisip ko for the moment but it's a very big question. It's a very very big question to answer actually. So or ito lang yung 2 words of thought ko about it.
Pero magandang reminder, siguro pa bago po sumagot si Ma'am Tess at si Ma'am Lilibeth, I think yung nakuha ko sa sinabi ni Ma'am Liza ay, let's try it out. And let's see, how it, may basic rules, may basic principles, and then let's see if it will work and then what tweaks we can make in a particular context. No? Sige po, Ma'am Tess or Ma'am Lilibeth?
Actually, yung kaninang nasa slide ko rin na Harry Stottlemyre's discovery.
Yes.
Ano yon? Science, math, logic.
Yes.
Yung dialogues nung bata doon. It's about science, math, logic, no? But of course, so ibig sabihin may magagamit talaga tayong stimulus for our students, no? Even if we are in the field of science and technology, or lalo na if we are in the field of humanities and the arts, no? Pero kaya of course within social sciences and of course philosophy at saka sa management, no? But siguro idadagdag ko lang, what is another important component, no, in the learning process aside from the 4 C's, no, would be the capacity and competence of the teacher to guide the discussion. Kasi the teacher must also be able to model, no, what
Yeah.
what reflection can consist in, no? And for the teacher as well to exhibit, of course, higher order thinking skills, no? Halimbawa, dapat yung teachers nakakakita sila, they see patterns and relationships, no? They are able to provide integration and synthesis, no? And they can draw out generalizations or more universal insights, no? As well as to have fresh perspectives, no? So a large portion in the introduction of P4C in the classroom, or turning the classroom into a community of inquiry, would be the training of the classroom teacher in pursuing inquiry, no? Kasi most teachers would of course have the capacity for this, no? But it may just need enhancement as well, no? Or more precise and focused attention to what can be philosophical, or what can be opportunities, no, to enhance the quality of thinking, no, and learning in whatever subject matter that is under consideration. So, yun. Kami, when we were trained, or when we were training teachers, the training basically consists, no, in the teachers going through the novels, the exercises, no, the discussion plan, so that their own thinking skills are given focus, no. So importante ito for the teachers to experience what it means to be in a community of inquiry kasi, no. So by experiencing these two, yung novels and yung exercises, novels and exercises at yung community of inquiry, the teachers will have a sense of where thinking skills program can go. Yun.
Para sa akin naman po, yung pragmatics, katulad po ng sinabi ni Doc Lisa, practice. Practice. Pangalawa, yung sinabi po ni Prof. Tess, o ni Doc Tess na training. Training mismo ng guro kung paano siya magiging mabuting facilitator. At pangatlo po, yung consciousness na we are all uh, uh, being shaped. We are all in the process of becoming. We are all relating. So nobody's left behind. Kasi lahat tayo dumadaan doon sa continuing process of becoming, relating, and being shaped, particularly in education. Salamat po.
Okay, thank you very much. This is such a very engaging conversation. I wish we have longer time, but I would be reading a question sent to us privately. And we would like to acknowledge also that we have two UDI fellows in Zoom right now, the classmates of Sir Ton. Hello, Father Rack from Adamson University. And of course, we have Sir Bong from Ateneo de Manila University. So our final question for this afternoon: how can universities scale P4C beyond individual classrooms into programs or institutional culture? What role do leadership and policy play in supporting inquiry-driven learning models? Anyone from our speakers can unmute and answer the question from Sir Bong. Thank you.
Okay, sa mga university leaders po na nakikinig sa atin ngayon, Sir Bong, if you are a university leader, you can support this approach um, by aligning your university's incentives and evaluation systems with inquiry-based teaching rather than just content coverage. No? Kasi this can actually include revising, no, yung faculty evaluation criteria para evalue yung student engagement, yung critical thinking, yung facilitation skills, no, ng faculty, no. And of course, university leaders should also provide training and resources, no, for their faculty. And siguro mahalaga rin that we recognize innovative teaching, no? Through promotions or awards or yung mga teaching grants, no? Kailangan po natin i-incentivize din talaga yung mga faculty, but with inquiry-based teaching, no? Rather than just content coverage as evaluation systems, no? Kasi yun nga po, mahirap kumawala, no, dun sa cultural expectation of a professor, no. So hindi po tayo uusad kapag hindi tayo nag-align, no, sa inquiry-based teaching. And also by signaling, no, that quality of learning processes matters as much as syllabus completion and test scores. Our university leaders can actually create an environment where inquiry-based, dialogue-centered teaching is encouraged and sustained. Yun po yung maaari nating gawin, no, as university leaders.
Gusto ko lang hong susugan yung sinabi ni Dr. Payong Ngayong na the department has embraced, no, the Philosophy for Children program, and then she has crafted, no, we are starting really to come up with the Philosophy for Children program in our department, no, na magkakaroon talaga ng institutional backing, no? So that magfo-flow nga yan sa course offerings, yung na-mention nga ni Dr. Payong nga yung na as a tool for better teaching, and then to really appreciate, no, what we are actually doing in the university, no, even that hopefully that really it cascades to basic ed tsaka high school, yung middle school teaching, no? Yun po, no, that yun nga, let's walk our talk. Then, ano yung pwedeng baby steps? Hindi naman kailangan leaps and bounds, no? Pero nga, ito yung sinabi ni Doc Lily din kanina na consciously, no? Deliberately, ipasok natin yon, no? Na inquiry based, na hindi lang ang content, no? Kasi content kayang-kaya talaga, no, ng lahat ng mga teachers, no. Pero ito nga na gawin nating like somehow second nature, that it be really a community of inquiry, no? And then having that respectful no, in relation to the growth spurts of our students, no, as precisely we all grow, no, in this community of inquiry mind frame. Pero purposely ilagay na nga natin sa what will we do, no? Magkakaroon ba tayo, will we have initiatives in the philosophy for children? Ito nga po, no, ngayon, itong araw na to, no, na somehow dapat in action nga, no, para maging conscious nga yung ating ibang mga teachers sa iba-ibang levels po of teaching.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing your expertise, Dr. Tess, Dr. Liza, and of course, Dr. Lily. And as we wrap up this rich discussion, we would like to ask the three of you for your maybe one final reflection. If a university leader here today, I know we have a few in Zoom, if they wanted to start a culture of inquiry on their campus, say tomorrow, where should they begin?
Sige, mauna na po ako.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Kung may university leaders po, again, nandito po sa Zoom, you may contact us. Lalagay ko po dito sa chat board yung aming email addresses, my email address, and ayan na pala. So that's my email address. Ilalagay ko na rin po yung email address ng aming departamento. Should you wish to have some collaborations with us or partnership with us, please send us an email. Thank you.
Second the motion. Ayun nga, let's do it. Yung Nike, just do it. Let's do it. Kasi andyan na ho eh. Andyan naman ho andyan na yung tools, andyan yung know-how. At saka andun yung pool ng the human aspect. Andyan po. So do it. And then yung sinabi ni Ma'am Tess, you can contact us. So that we make we start the ball rolling. Salamat po.
Ako po, bukod po sa contacting us, siguro po yung cafeteria. Kasi sa cafeteria, nando po mga estudyante, nandun din ang mga guro, nandun yung discussion ng mga, paglabas ng mga estudyante, andyan na nagkikwentuhan na tungkol sa discussion at pati si prof o si teacher pinag-uusapan. So busog ang utak, busog ang tiyan, maganda ang discussion sa cafeteria po. At contact us sa Department of Philosophy. Thank you po.
That is so awesome. Siguro, Mama Beth, hindi ko na dadagdagan pa yung mga nabanggit na very insightful na. Pero siguro po ang gusto ko lang banggitin ay kina Prof. Tess, Prof. Lisa, at Prof. Lilibeth, baka be ready po to receive invitations from our colleagues from Cebu, from Davao, from Quezon, Catanduanes, Nueva Ecija, Ilocos, Palawan. We have a lot of colleagues po who are here with us from Mindanao, from MMSU, Central Mindanao, no? And so we are very excited po na for them to na lahat po tayo, no, we all became community of inquirers this afternoon, and I can only imagine po the possibilities if we can spread the word some more, no, and keep practicing this. And I'm very happy po that our facilitators agreed for this afternoon. So yun lang po on my end, Mama Beth.
Yes, sir, I think this deserves a part 2, a continuation. And we also would like to make a shout out to someone representing a university all the way from Bangladesh, joining us this afternoon too. So, of course, we'd like to recognize the contribution of our speakers to the community of practice, and we are very much honored to present this certificate of appreciation to our team from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. So I will no longer read that text, but this certificate of appreciation is, of course, awarded to our three speakers, Dr. Lily Beth Lumagbas, Dr. Maria Liza Ruth Ocampo, and Dr. Maria Teresa T. Payongayong. And of course, a certificate also of appreciation is awarded to my co-moderator, our alumni fellow, Dr. Jose Antonio Clemente. Thank you very, very much po for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you once again to all our participants. Our next session will be in April as we continue this journey of transformation. Please keep an eye on your email for the invite. Again po, we are so grateful that you can all join us this afternoon.
That's right, Sir Ton. And don't forget also to fill out the evaluation form, ayan na, via the link in our chat box to get your certificates. Make sure also to follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and make sure that you stay updated on all the things that we do here in the CoLab UDI. In behalf of the whole team, thank you for joining us. By the way, the recordings of our 2 previous webinars are now available and very much accessible on the UDI website for you to rewatch and for you to share as well. So we'll see you again on April 23, 2 p.m., where we will be discussing the commercialization of research, this time from Adamson University. Okay?
Okay po. Abangan niyo po yung registration very, very soon. And once again po, gentle reminder to complete our short evaluation form. And this is very vital for us at CoLab UDI as we continue to design impactful programming for higher education. Once we receive your completed evaluation, you can expect to receive your electronic certificate of attendance for this webinar. So again po, the link is shown on the screen. So pwede po, you can use Secure or you can click po the link on our chat box.
Thank you very much, Sir Ton. This
you,
is
Mama
a
Beth.
series of our monthly dialogues for design, and we invite you again next month as we continue to explore new ideas with other higher education innovation leaders and our fellows as well. So again, on behalf of the CoLab UDI team, thank you once again to our phenomenal speakers from the University of the Philippines Diliman campus, and to my co-moderator, Dr. Ton Clemente, and to all of you for dedicating your time to this very important conversation. Until then, and let's keep designing a brighter future for Philippine higher education. See you in our next session, everyone. Good afternoon.